Welcome to another edition of Snapshot. It's Friday morning, November 21st. I'm Michael Makovsky. I'm President and CEO of JINSA. I'm joined by my colleague, Blaise Misztal, our JINSA's Policy VP. Blaise, good to see you.
Good to be with you, Mike.
All right. So last week, we talked about one of the things we talked about was MBS's, the Saudi Crown Prince's upcoming visit to Washington. So tell us, it happened this past week. We had a webinar about it Wednesday, but why don't you tell us how you see things? How did the trip go?
Yeah, Mike, I think unfortunately we have to pat ourselves on the back. We proved prescient in our concerns about what might happen during the trip. I wish we had been wrong, but we did see President Trump offer MBS all sorts of goodies while asking very little in return, perhaps other than economic investment into the United States. So we saw him agree to sell Saudi Arabia F-35s. We saw him give Saudi Arabia Major Non-NATO Ally status. He signed an agreement for civil nuclear cooperation with Saudi Arabia, as well as a slew of other agreements and strategic goodies, and all of that without hinging it or tying any of that to normalization with Israel, which, as we said, I think really leads to fears that there's not a lot of incentive left for Saudi Arabia to do that deal, or a lot of leverage the U.S. has to drive normalization forward. There are a couple of things that are still out there. The F-35 sale is going to take multiple years to materialize, so maybe that can still be used as leverage. Saudi Arabia did not get any sort of security guarantee from the United States, which it might have wanted. So that is potential leverage. And then on the good side, as our colleagues John Hanna and Jonathan Rui talked about in the webinar you mentioned, Mike, is the fact that the civil nuclear cooperation agreement with Saudi Arabia doesn't allow them to enrich uranium or reprocess plutonium, which is something that they had been wanting before, but is now off the table, thankfully, and makes it less likely that they might be able to use that nuclear program to get nuclear weapons at some point. So that is one benefit, or one plus side at least.
Yeah. Why do you think Trump did that? I mean, he wants to do he's very, very keen on normalization. He was interviewed before the trip by MBS about normalization. He seemed pretty confident this was going to happen, but yet he does this. Which one would think, not necessarily disincentivizes, but at least removes an incentive for the Saudis to normalize with Israel.
Yeah, it's a good question, because on the face of it, at least, the United States doesn't get a lot out of the meeting. We gave a lot to the Saudis, but it's not clear what we get. I guess maybe a couple of things. If we sort of look more to domestic policy rather than foreign policy, and maybe Trump's desire to get that Nobel Peace Prize for driving normalization forward, maybe he's a little more concerned about the economy here at home. He wants to make sure that Saudi Arabia keeps pumping oil to keep gas prices low. He's really focused maybe on that domestic investment to try to create jobs, or at least opportunities and economic growth here in the U.S. ahead of the midterm elections next year. So maybe that was more front of mind for him than really looking towards the Middle East. But it is unclear what exactly we got out of everything that was offered to MBS.
Yeah, besides possibly the deals. Right. And, I don't think Trump is known to be a big strategist, and he clearly certainly likes making deals. But as our colleague John Hanna said, Wednesday, still he didn't get, as you point out, he didn't get the security arrangement that the Qataris got, and that's got to really gnaw on him. On the other hand, overall, if I were MBS, I'd feel really good about this visit. I think it's the first time he visited since 2018. Some journalists asked him about the Khashoggi killing. Trump just got annoyed at the journalists about it and dismissed the whole thing. So it's clearly a different era for him. under Trump than it was under Biden. That's for sure. But let's talk. Since we're talking about F-35s, we also put out a report this week, and you did a webinar yesterday. We did on Rising Lion, Israel's operation in June against Iran, and the 12-day war. What are some of the takeaways from that report?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So we did the report with 3 retired U.S. generals and admirals: General Chuck Wald, the former deputy commander of European Command; Vice Admiral Mark Fox, the former deputy commander of Central Command; and Lieutenant General Bob Ashley, the former director of the Defense Intelligence Agency. We got the chance to take them to Israel for high-level meetings where they learned all about Operation Rising Lion. And there's a lot of great tidbits about how the operation unfolded in the report that I would commend to all of you, including how those strikes in the opening minutes of the campaign unfolded, and how Israel was able to find Iranian leaders even as they were moving around while the planes were in the air. It's some pretty amazing stuff. But it's even more amazing to see it through the eyes of these military men. It's one thing for me to say this is impressive. It's another thing for these 3 generals to come away so blown away by what Israel accomplished, and things that I might not have picked up on were really impressive for them. So, for example, the fact that Israel, which was flying the F-35, but also the F-15, the F-16, all of these planes, including its 50-year-old aerial refueling tankers, thousands of flight hours over 12 days, not a single malfunction, not a single plane that had to abort its mission because of mechanical problems. Like that even that was really impressive for these generals. And it's because Israel displayed these military capabilities that, as they said, no other U.S. ally in the world has. That one of the lessons learned that they identify from Operation Rising Lion is the need for the United States to keep working with Israel, bolster its capabilities even further, to lean on and use those military capabilities to make sure we're keeping the Middle East safe. Because, as JINSA has written in the past, this war with Iran is not over yet. We know that they are trying to reconstitute their air defenses, their nuclear program, their ballistic missile capabilities, and it's important that we make sure that does not happen. And so in the report, the group calls for a new campaign between the wars, the way that Israel tried to keep Hezbollah from being armed by striking in Syria. The U.S. and Israel now need to work together to try to make sure that Iran does not rebuild. And a big piece of that is not just the military part in the Middle East, but a global diplomatic effort that they call for, because China is a big piece of the puzzle here, with the Iranians turning to China, asking them for improved air defenses, asking them to help rebuild their missile program. We're seeing some of that already happen, and it's really critical that the United States get involved now to stop that and make sure that China does not resupply the Iranians.
Yeah, I wonder. We'll see. Wonder what sort of influence this operation will have on U.S. operations going forward. Those first 4 minutes, which are discussed in this report, Israel took out all the senior military leadership and the scientists, had a devastating effect on the Iranians. The supreme leader had no one to speak with, really, after those first 4 minutes. People had to speak with people he really didn't know, because the ones he knew were killed. And you wonder, what Israel did at a distance, not on a country on their border, but again, what they were able to accomplish was really phenomenal. And I wonder how this might impact the way the U.S. thinks about its own operations going forward, about what it might be able to achieve, without ground forces. Let me just conclude. Just for a minute, it was announced. At least I saw an email last night, and it's kind of been announced that our friend Mark Mellman passed away. I just want to express our deep condolences to his family, his wife Mindy, and his kids and grandchildren. He was a longtime friend of mine, but he also was a great friend and a really important person in the pro-Israel community. Also not just the pro-Israel community, of course, but in politics, he was a leading strategist and pollster among Democrats. But he played a particularly, I'd say, important role, particularly, at least that I saw, as I got more involved in pro-Israel activities at JINSA. Opposing the Iran nuclear deal. He headed a big effort on that 10 years ago, and then he helped found this Democratic majority for Israel, and he had been ill for a while, and it's a loss, I think, here in Washington, for U.S. politics, and I think for the pro-Israel community. He was also just a total mensch, just a very fine human being, and we are very honored that he was able to participate in some JINSA activities over the years, and he was always excellent in his participation. So our condolences to his family.
May his memory be a blessing.
Right, thank you. So want to wish everybody thanks, Blaise. Good seeing you and speaking with you as always, and I wish you and everybody listening a good weekend. Take care. Bye.
Yeah, and a happy Thanksgiving next week.
Oh yes, and a happy Thanksgiving.